Well, hello and welcome to episode 116 of Drink the Movies. I am Brian here as always with Michaela. And Michaela, this week we celebrated love in the best way possible. That is going out onto a cruise liner, setting sail from England to the United States with Kate and Leo.
That's right. I mean, what better way to tell someone you love them?
That is right. It is the 25th anniversary of Titanic, that Oscar winning, lots of Oscar wins film. Very excited about it. It's a love story that you and I both like. It's a little divisive for some reason. I don't really understand it, but we're gonna be talking about all of that. We're gonna be talking about a really good cocktail because we found one that they served up on the Titanic, that White Star Line ship
Yeah,
itself, the Punch Romaine.
that's right. I mean, and so one of the things about Titanic that is really cool is that there's so much historical um fodder that you can chew up. They have museum exhibits that you can go to, and you can pretend to
Mm-hmm.
be, what was it like if if you were a person that was on Titanic, what was it like in first versus third class? They have done so much historical work around who was on it and what it was like. And you can actually get like White Star label tablecloths if you really wanted to have tablecloths that looked like they were on the Titanic, or the dishes. And so it was really cool that we were going to be able to recreate a cocktail that they actually served.
Yeah.
Thought that was really cool. And again, a love story for history of all time.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's our annual tradition now on Drink the Movies to talk about a Leonardo DiCaprio love story. Last year we did Romeo and Juliet way back in episode 64, telling his tale there. And today, yeah, we're going to be talking about the love story of Jack and Rose. So, Michaela, you mentioned that cocktail. It's a delicious one. So why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to whip up this week's cocktail, the Punch Romaine. All right, so this week's cocktail, it comes from an actual dinner menu that they recovered from the
Yes.
Titanic, from the White Star Line dinner menu. Like you mentioned at the top, Michaela, it's kind of neat from a standpoint that they've been down and they've collected a bunch of this stuff. A lot of it was kind of historical, or would have been cataloged probably anyways, I guess, by the White Star Line, in preparation for whatever the following voyages were meant to be. But this was a cocktail that they had at one of the actual dinner seatings there on the Titanic, and it has the name of the Punch Romaine. And you can find the recipe for this cocktail in a bunch of places online, but this was the one that we made here, and it's really simple to put together. So into your shaker tin, you're going to put 1 ounce of just a white or silver rum, 1 ounce of some freshly squeezed orange juice, a half ounce of simple syrup, a half ounce of lemon juice, and an egg white. Go ahead and give that a shake without any ice. It's called a dry shake. Just give that a shake. It gets the egg white nice and foamy, and then you can put your ice in there, shake it, chill it down, and then you're going to strain that into like a coupe, or like a big kind of like goblet sort of thing filled with crushed ice. You're just going to strain that in there. It's going to be nice and frothy. But then the kicker, and why this is perfect for fancy, dinners on your $80,000 cruise, or fancy for your Valentine's Day that maybe you celebrated this week. You're going to be topping that off with some champagne. Only the best here. Drink the movies.
That's right. Only the best. And I'm not talking my Wycliffe $6 basic knockoff that I still love more than anything. We actually did some cremant, which was very nice. I recommend not doing anything super sweet. So
Mm-hmm.
Prosecco tends to be a sweeter, kind of bubbly if you don't like champagne or you don't want to spend that kind of money. You could do a prosecco. I would choose a drier one because I really think that you're going to need that to help balance out some of the rum and acidity. And we talk a lot about the ingredients that we use here at Drink the Movies. I truly recommend, when we made this, we used fresh oranges, we used fresh lemons. I really recommend doing that because this is a pretty simple cocktail, and it will we will definitely be able to taste the difference if you use really good quality ingredients, and fresh ingredients for it. So that's the Michaela recommendation for how to enjoy this. And then the second recommendation is just to drink a lot of it, because it's real good, and you almost don't care that the ship is like shaking, and the band's still playing, so it's still good to drink, right?
The band is still playing and you are still drinking. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned, you want to use kind of, some really good quality ingredients when you're doing something like this, or really kind of any champagne cocktail, because really the purpose of a champagne cocktail is to highlight the notes, that kind of yeasty dryness that you get with a really good French champagne. So yeah, you definitely want to use some fresh oranges, some fresh lemons, a nice quality rum. We used a Bacardi white rum, which is probably the rum they would have had on board the Titanic, I'm guessing, something along those lines. And then, yeah, if you don't want to splurge for the champagne, you can use a Cremant. We used one actually from here in the Finger Lakes region of New York, but you can also get Cremants from elsewhere around France. Cremant is just a fancy French word for champagne that's not made within the region of Champagne. So it's made by the same style. It has, pretty much the same kind of taste, but you can usually get a lot better bang for your buck there, so to speak, on something like that. So I definitely want to mix one of these up and give it a try. It's it's very fancy. I felt very fancy when we were drinking this, Michaela.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
probably not first class fancy on the Titanic, but maybe like second class, not third class like Jack, but
no,
maybe
certainly not.
Right in the middle. Maybe.
You're not having this in steerage, that is for sure. You might be having more fun in steerage, though. I feel like the party in steerage was way better than the party up with all the stiffs that were like, "Oh, I would like some more brandy with my twice smoked cigar." I think the party was where it's at, but this is a party. So maybe it's a second class thing. I mean, they never really talked about the class, the second class group of folks. We never really discussed that in the class war that is about to ensue in the deep dive of Titanic, but I'm sure we'll get there.
That's right. Yeah, anything below first class is good enough for us. But yeah, this cocktail is delicious. Definitely give it a try. It would be a really something very simple to put together for a fancy dinner party or something like that. So whip one of these up, let us know, send pictures, all that good stuff. But for now, Michaela, we have to talk about a love story that, is set in 1912. It was released 25 years ago to the world. It won all of the awards and it captured everyone's heart. So why don't we take a quick break and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, Titanic.
Spoiler warning for Titanic. The ship sinks. This we know. But if you've not seen 1997's Titanic, written and directed by James Cameron and winner of 87 awards, then you should probably press pause. Go make yourself a really wonderful punch romaine. Spend 3 hours watching this film and then come back and we can chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've not seen it yet, like Michaela said, spoiler warning, the ship goes down, but we have a lot of stuff to cover before we get there. So this came out in 1997. Happy 25th anniversary. I think it came out in December, so it's actually just a hair past its 25th anniversary, but back in the theaters now. Go check it out if you're listening to this. Certainly a good time. So written and directed by James Cameron, and it stars Kate Winslet as Rose and Leonardo DiCaprio as Jack. And Michaela, you mentioned that this won all of the awards, and it did win a lot of them. Not quite all. It was nominated for 14, which was tied for the most ever nominations with All About Eve from 1950. And then it won 11 of those 14, which also tied a record. Ben-Hur also won 11 Academy Awards. So, some pretty esteemed company there. So it's easier to cover the ones that it lost. It lost Best Makeup, and it lost Best Actress and Supporting Actress for Kate Winslet and Gloria Stewart. Now, I wonder, I didn't go back through the history of the Oscars, but I wonder how many times, two actors have been nominated for awards for playing the same role.
That is a great question, actually. I kind of want to Google it now.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So we have Kate Winslet, who is playing the young Rose, and then Gloria Stewart, who is playing the old Rose, who we meet kind of at the beginning of the film, and who partially kind of narrates the story as we go through. So that's just kind of something interesting to think about. And while you're looking that up, let's talk about the things that it won. So it won for Best Score, it won for Best Original Song, it won for Best Visual Effects, won for Best Sound Effects Editing, won for Best Film Editing, Sound, Costume Design, Art and Set Decoration, Cinematography, Director, and of course, Best Picture of the Year. So yeah, a lot of accolades. And watching this movie back 25 years later, it's beyond clear to me why it won all those things, because I don't know, this thing is a feast for the eyes, a feast for the hearts, A feast for
Yeah.
everything, Michaela.
Oh yeah. No, it's the most, I mean, it's such a lush, rich story. And we can talk about, what we like and didn't like all day long, but the costume is amazing. The writing is pretty great. The acting is impeccable. And it's interesting because I did look this up. There have only been two other instances in Academy history where actors won Oscars for playing the same character. Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro both earned awards for playing Don Vito Corleone. Okay,
Okay.
albeit different movies. And Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix both won for their take on the Joker, which is really
Okay.
interesting. So they're the only ones.
Yeah.
They won versus this was just nominations. But interesting fun fact, all the same. You do. It's interesting because we're gonna really get into it. But this film, it did not win any of the acting awards, and I remember a lot of people feeling that Leonardo DiCaprio was actually snubbed because he wasn't even nominated for this. So there was that. It was kind of the beginning of a long, arduous relationship that Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, had with the Academy and getting accolades for all the amazing work that he's done over the course of his career. But yeah, it won so many of the awards. It's definitely a clear reason why when you go see this. And if you haven't seen it on the big screen, if you're less than 25 years old, because now this is 25 years old and that means that I'm really old, go watch it if you have the opportunity to do it, because I really do think that the grandness of the film itself is filmed in such a way, it's really hard to understand the impact on a small screen. So the bigger the screen, probably the better. If you have a home theater or a big screen TV, watch it on that rather than your phone.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, Michaela, let's get into the story a little bit. And we'll kind of worm our way around these Academy Awards as we talk through the story and some of the things that we're seeing here. But to get the story kicked off, everyone always made the joke that Titanic, a movie, exactly how that's going to end. But no one really knew how this was going to begin, because we don't begin on the Titanic. We begin on an expedition out at sea to go down and do some recovery on Titanic. And this is actually something that James Cameron was doing. So this is all actual footage of the Titanic that James Cameron is. I don't know. We mentioned it in our kind of little deep dive that we're doing over on our Patreon about Avatar, that James Cameron might just be a crazy person that just likes to do a lot of crazy things and really just leans into it. But yeah, it's kind of all this footage of the actual shipwreck of the Titanic, and we're there with a character by the name of Brock Lovett, which is the coolest name in all of cinema for sure. He's played by Bill Paxton, and he is one part I don't know, shipwreck biologist, marine biologist, and one part treasure hunter, because they're going down to look at the Titanic, but what they're really trying to do is get the safe and recover this gigantic freaking diamond called the Heart of the Ocean.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. This guy is much more of that, the former rather than the latter, right? I love how they show where he's kind of filming himself and he's trying to talk in this really like soft voice, and he's like, "We can all die on this ship together. We're 3,000 feet under, the surface of the." And then he's like, "This is all BS. Where's the diamond?" Right? And so
He has a cool
he's got
earring though.
He has a cool earring. And this is my story, James Cameron, if you listen to this and I'm totally wrong, don't hate me, but I feel like this was like an autobiographical moment for James Cameron, because I really do think that this had a huge impact on James Cameron and the things that were important to him and ultimately helped him craft this movie and so many others that we see now, right? So Way of Water, I bet this was hugely inspired by all of the things that he saw actually going down to this wreck and looking at all the things. And so really cool that they were able to tie this into the actual story of Titanic. I love the scene when they find this safe. They've got this really cool, very reminiscent of The Abyss, but they've got this really cool machine that can like do all these things, and like it has arms and it's lifting stuff out and it gets the safe. And then they're like, "All right, we're gonna bring it up and we're gonna open it. We're gonna open it with everybody and their mother looking at us, because I'm gonna smoke the cigar that I've been saving for 8 years or whatever, and it's gonna be so great. We're gonna see this." And unfortunately, they don't see anything When they open it up, all of the stuff that's in there, it's very muddy. It looks great because it looks so gross.
Yes, kudos to the props department here because that safe looked like it had been underwater for 100 years,
Yeah.
by all accounts. And yeah, they crack it open. No diamond in there. There's some paperwork and stuff in there, but that's not what Brock wants. Even though those papers from a historical standpoint, are as important as this diamond for sure. But that's not going to pay the bills in the same way. But what do you got to do? You got to go through these papers, see what they are. So they're cleaning them up, which actually is kind of a neat scene just to kind of see the process of them trying to restore these pages. And one of the pages, he looks over and sees there is a lady laying there, a hand-drawn picture, but she seems to be wearing something that looks a lot like that big gigantic diamond that he was looking for. So when news breaks that this picture has been found, he gets a phone call from a lovely old lady by the name of Rose, who's played by Gloria Stewart. And what does she say? She says, "Mr. Brock Lovett, that picture is me."
That picture is me. And of course, then I love how they descend on her. She's literally like 101, and they're bringing her on the ship, and it's this old Russian looking ship. She brings 13 cases with her. Spoiler warning that we see that earlier or later in the film. It's foreshadowing, but she brings all this stuff with her, and she's like, I have to have my pictures with me. And Bill Paxton's character Brock, he's like, I don't know if this person is real or not. I don't, there was no record of this Rose Dawson lady. There's no record of her being on the Titanic. But she knows things that he has spent the last years of his life trying to uncover in order to get this diamond. And so he sits her down. Her granddaughter is there to kind of look after her because she is real old. And he asks her to tell the story. And I love the banter between them because he's, in a hurry for her to kind of just spit it out. And she's like, no, dude, I've never told this story to anybody. I'm going to take my time. And if you don't like it, I can leave. Like, it's great. And so she starts to kind of explain the story from the very beginning. And one thing I really love about it is when you first see the opening credits of the Titanic, you see this kind of sepia viewed look at the bon voyage, of the Titanic when it's first leaving port. And, you immediately then move into this oceanic kind of exploration stuff. But this takes you right back to that moment. And we see the entrance of a young Rose Dawson, and it's one of the best entrances with cinematography. This scene right here made me want to find out how people filmed things. When Rose Dawson gets, or I don't remember what her name was, Rose Calvert or Rose something else. She gets out.
Rose DeWitt Bucater.
Oh, that's right. It's a mouthful. So Rose gets out of the coach. She's got this amazing purple hat. She is absolutely stunning and glorious, and she's got like 30,000 suitcases, and that shot is just ingrained into my spirit as a 17-year-old hopeless romantic girl. I thought it was just amazing.
Absolutely. I really like the way that kind of the story is structured, because it could have just been the love story, but I really like kind of this back and forth of, old Rose telling the story. Quick note on Gloria Stewart, her first acting credit is in 1932. That's amazing. That she was still acting come 1997 and playing this and getting nominated for an Academy Award. But I really love it because she'll be kind of talking and they'll be looking at, some like image of the Titanic on their little TV monitor from the submarine. And then, it cuts to, the historical aspect of the film there as we're meeting young Rose, played by Kate Winslet. She is there with her mother. She is there with her fiance, I guess, by the name of Cal, who's played by Billy Zane. And you get the feeling that Rose maybe isn't as infatuated with this lifestyle maybe as everyone else seems to be. The Titanic is expensive. I think modern day it's like roughly like $80,000 for this voyage from England to the United States for these first class tickets, and then you go aboard the ship, and it's all of the same kind of things that you saw. And I really like kind of in this first section here, it's just establishing the grandioseness and the beauty of the ship. You know, the big staircase with this wood inlaid clock that's there, the staterooms, and all this elaborate wood paneling. Their suite, Cal and Rose's suite on this thing is like, I don't know, bigger than my house. Like, it's absolutely insane. They have sitting rooms and tea rooms and bedrooms and changing rooms and all sorts of rooms on this thing. But it's kind of moving around the ship, and it really kind of establishes the ship itself, Titanic, as a character in this. So we have Rose, we have her family, we have the ship of Titanic. But then, what is a good love story without a good love interest? We need to meet Jack.
And we meet Jack. He is not originally supposed to be on the Titanic at all. We see him a couple streets away. He's playing poker with, I think, some German folk. I think that maybe they're Norwegian. I'm not sure. They don't speak English, but they're very angry because they're two of them, and they're really mad that one of them decided to go ahead and bet their Titanic ship tickets home. I guess they were going to go back and work back in America. But Jack Dawson and his bestie Fabrizio, they win these tickets. And it's a great story because they win it as the ship is taking off. So then there's this really fun high speed chase where they're running through all of the people trying to get all the luggage and all of the caretakers. And then apparently, newsflash, there was a whole inspection process. If you weren't in first class, they thought you were disgusting, and they needed to check you for lice and scurvy and I don't know. I don't know. They had to do a lot of things. And so they're running through trying to get on this boat as it is literally shipping. They've got the ship whistle saying we're leaving. And then they get to the front and they're like, hey, have you gone through this process? And they're like, yeah, dude, it's cool. We're American. It's fine. And they just let them on. No change there. We think we can do all the things.
Yeah, I really like them, running into the ship, because you're seeing kind of some of the inner workings of how this worked, right? Because you have Rose showing up with, 15, giant steamer trunks full of clothes that she needs to wear over the next, 7 days or however long they're going to be at sea. So you see them loading the trunks up. You see there's a crane there swinging a car over onto the Titanic into the cargo hold there. It's really a sight to be seen. But yeah, luckily we get on board in time to set sail. And then, like I mentioned, we're getting kind of this establishing shots of just how beautiful and how grand the Titanic is. There is a gorgeous shot that is part CG and part model, and part matte painting, where there's a flyby over the entire deck of the Titanic, and then it kind of pulls back and you see the whole scope of this thing out on the ocean. It's absolutely breathtaking and mind-boggling to even think of doing something on that scale, which was why it was the most expensive film ever made at the time that it was made. But looks gorgeous. But everything on board isn't as gorgeous. I mentioned Rose. She doesn't seem to be quite as infatuated with this lifestyle. She doesn't seem to be quite as infatuated with Cal, and I don't know. Maybe that's not going to go good. Maybe she doesn't want to go to America and marry this guy, because who would?
Yeah, I mean, who would? And Cal's played by really, really great Billy Zane. Billy Zane never really plays a nice guy, but he does it so well. Yeah, he and his weird unibrow thing going on. He definitely exudes this rich, powerful jerkiness. He truly believes that if you don't have money, you're worth less than he is. And so he is giving Rose all sorts of critiques about the art that she likes. There's a scene where it's very clear he does not understand what motivates her or what she likes and who she is as a person. And he just wants to throw his money around. And he's like, I give you all these things and you're actually quite spoiled. And her mom kind of agrees with Cal, which is never a good thing. So it's a really toxic situation that Rose has found herself in. And, I do this movie gets a lot of flack for being so long. There's a couple of reasons why I think it had to be this long to tell some of the stories in the way that it did. And one of the things that I liked is this one scene. It's very short, but Cal is showing Rose this diamond that he has, and it's his, and he's like, I'm gonna take it, and I want you to wear this on our engagement party when we get to New York, and with all of the highest in society. And he's like, I just don't understand. Like, I can give you anything, and I would never deny you anything, just open your heart to me. And so at first you're like, well, he's kind of a jerk, but maybe his motives are good, maybe. And she won't even look at the diamond, right? Like, she just won't. She looks at him because she doesn't care about that. She's like, it's really heavy. This you want me to wear this, and it's like worth more than anything. Like, it's billions of dollars, and it's just a trinket to her. And so they just don't understand each other, which is interesting because when she does meet Jack, they end up forming a bond almost immediately, even though they are literally from different worlds and different, castes and different parts of the world and different socioeconomic statuses, but they have a connection that Cal and Rose would never have, even though they kind of are cut from the same cloth, as it were.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of a credit to the writing of the character Cal, because by all accounts, Cal is is awful. But you do still kind of feel bad for him because he does seem to genuinely care about Rose and her safety as we make our way through this, whether it's misguided or not. But he does really seem to be like I said, very very kind of committed to Rose. So I think, yeah, it's just kind of a testament to the writing for him. But I get this really kind of neat scene as they're at dinner then on, I don't know, one of the first couple of nights there. Cal is ordering for Rose, and Kathy Bates, who's playing Molly Brown, the unsinkable Molly Brown. She's like says something along the lines of, "Are you going to cut her steak for her too, Cal?" And kind of at this point, you really see kind of the disconnect coming to a head. So after this dinner, Rose is going to make her way up to the top deck of the ship. She is going to make her way to the edge railing, taking a look over the side, and maybe she decides that plunging into the icy Atlantic is a better option than spending the rest of her life with Cal. But luckily, some sort of guardian angel character by the name of Jack Dawson, aka Leonardo DiCaprio, stumbles upon her and is able to, convince her that, if she jumps into the water, he's going to have to jump into the water, and he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, because he knows that it's going to be real cold. For any of you that don't know, because I didn't know until I actually went to a Titanic exhibit a million years ago. So the ocean has ice and water and salt in it, and salt lowers the freezing point. And what that actually means is water that would be frozen if it was in your freezer at home will actually still be water in the ocean because of the salt content. So the water that they all are around, that's all around them in the North Sea, is incredibly cold. It's actually like 10 degrees colder than frozen ice. And that's really important because as we go through this, we all know the Titanic does sink, and a lot of people didn't end up dying because they drowned. They froze to death in the water. And so he's trying to explain, hey, this is not this like romantic, like I'm just going to fall into the ocean and disappear somehow. Like, it's going to be really cold. It's going to be really uncomfortable. And if you jump, I jump, Rose. I'm invested now. And so she kind of listens to reason, although she also kind of insults him. She's like, I'm not asking, like, you're asking all these questions. Leave me alone. I'm trying to commit suicide in peace. Let me do this. But he grabs her. She decides to go ahead and step over and come to the safe side of the rail, but she slips and falls. And that's a problem because now she's screaming. Everybody misunderstands. Because he took the time to like take his boots off. So of course, they think that he's got some nefarious kind of plan, and she doesn't really want to say anything to anybody because she would have to answer for wanting to jump off the side of the Titanic. And that would be bad because she's supposed to want the life that she has. But that is really how they kind of solidify this tentative relationship and friendship between the two of them, because even Cal has to admit that her life was saved and he has to do something other than give him $20 to thank him. And so he kind of lets Jack spends some time in the company of all of this fine grandness, as if that will assuage him somehow.
That's right. Yeah, they invite them to the very fancy dinner. There, he's going to be, I guess, the guest of Molly Brown, which is pretty great. One of the I do like about this film, the characters of Rose and Jack and Cal, those are fictionalized character, but kind of the people that they're intermingling with on the ship. Molly Brown, Captain Smith, Thomas Andrews, the first officers and all those are actual people that were on the Titanic, so they're kind of interacting with them. Now their stories aren't beat for beat from what we know, I guess, historically, I guess through people just talking and recollections and recountings of the story. But it seems like James Cameron did a lot of put a lot of work and effort into giving their stories kind of similar feels and parallels to the way their actual stories went, and kind of paying homage to the things that happened. So I really like that aspect. But yeah, you get Jack here at this fancy dinner, and he is making a lot of pretty grand statements. He's almost like a sideshow to these people, right? Who are wealthy beyond all means. They're asking him, what's it like to be kind of this drifter, and he's saying that that's okay. He doesn't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And Rose really seems to be kind of smitten with this idea of not being tied down, not being limited by your status in life, and just going about and having a fun time. So when she gets the invite to go down to a party in the third class section, she's going to take it, and you see kind of this love and this romance really start to blossom between the two, as a love in the sense of this sort of lustful affair bit that we get to later. But really, it's kind of this friendship. They're able to, kind of chew on the ear of one another. And Rose is able to finally confide in someone that you probably don't get if you're living in that kind of high society anyways.
Absolutely. I think it's really telling when she tries to talk to her mother about her troubles, because our mother is seeing that she's developing these feelings. It's pretty obvious to everybody around that they are developing this relationship, friendship, and it's really worrying to her mom, because her mom has ulterior motives. Her mom, as she's kind of corseting her up, is like, you can't see him again, and you don't understand. Like, he is our ticket. We don't have any money. All we have is a good name. You have to marry Cal, or else I'm going to end up being a seamstress. You're not going to have anything. And on the flip side, you have Jack, who is telling her, oh, she can learn how to ride a horse like a man, like one leg on either side. She can learn how to fly planes. She can do anything if she wants to. And not only that, but they're already talking about doing these things together very, very quickly. And it's not what makes this such a great love story is not this kind of lustful thing that happens, although it does turn that way. It's quite innocent and beautiful the way that it unfolds, because at the end of the day, Jack is more of a friend to Rose, because he knows that she's in a really tough spot, and he knows that she could do more and be more, and she has a light around her that he wants to see shine, whether it's with him or not. And mm-hmm. There's no possessiveness there when they're kind of having an argument, because she is trying to figure this out in her head. And it's very hard, because she doesn't want to let her family down. And she knows that Cal is the right choice on paper, even though he's awful. Jack is saying, okay, it's not necessarily about me and you. You have to decide for your life what you want to do and who you want to be. And there are things about you that are brilliant, and you shouldn't let that be tainted by this relationship that you don't want to be in the first place. And so mm-hmm. as a 17-year-old girl hearing this, I thought it was really, really special, because, in this day and age of the Titanic time, the mom says it best, we're women and we have to make the difficult choices. We very rarely get what we actually want. And it was very nice to see that part being, in 1997, that being said, that's okay and celebrated even.
Yeah, for sure. And you get kind of that sentiment from Jack through the story there, when he's talking, I could save you from not letting you jump off of the ship, but to change your life trajectory, I can't I can't do that for you, Rose. That's something that you're going to have to decide to do for yourself. And, Jack kind of lays it to bear, tells her how she feels. And, she doesn't reciprocate. Like you said, she has all this pressure to go off and be with Cal. But eventually she sort of relents to the fact that Jack has really stolen her heart, and she goes back to be with him. And they have one sort of kind of final tryst. And she is going to literally lay it all to bear as she asks Jack, who is by all signs an excellent artist who'd been over in Paris doing some drawings. She seems infatuated with that, and it's really more symbolic, I think, of her, laying to be drawn by Jack wearing that diamond, as she's really kind of exposing herself, her hearts, her being vulnerable to him in ways that she never would be able to with Cal, as he draws that picture and they go off to have their romantic interlude here on the last night of this fateful voyage.
Yeah. So it's so funny, interesting to me, because this part of the film is very, very erotic, and but
this was apparently the first scene that they shot together, on a side note, which is crazy to me.
That is pretty crazy, actually, because it's not. I mean, obviously, it's a picture of a new of Kate Winslet is in the nude, right? From the top up, so you see her. So it's not for children, I will say. But as far as like love scenes go, this was so perfectly filmed, because you see Jack, you see his eyes as he's like looking at her and trying to like create the painting, you see, or the drawing, you see somebody actually drawing it. Now, it's an urban legend. I don't know if this is true. I heard it was James Cameron that actually made the sketch. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it's absolutely beautiful, the way in which the score kind of reacts with the different scenes and the way this was edited. It's really exciting, especially for young people. It's just it's more exciting than the actual act of like sex itself. I think that this was their love scene. They end up consummating their relationship later in a town car, and that's okay too. But this was the real deal. And it's so, again, it's very, I don't want to say innocent, but it's just so wondrous, because they just have this way of kind of looking at each other. And I love it when it closes, the shot that closes in on Rose's eye, that's very blue and crisp, and then it kind of changes into the old Rose's eye, and it's still the same eye, which is really a beautiful thought, because when you fall in love when you're young, you look, I mean, I never looked like Rose Dawson, but you get older and things change, and you're not the same, even though when you're young, it's easy to have this romantic love. And yet Rose is still feeling these emotions, and she's 101. It's really one of the reasons why people can say that this film didn't do other things well, but it tells a great love story. It really does.
And it flashes back there to old Rose, as I said, is kind of narrating through this, and she's coming off of this and talking about that. And, she makes the comment then, that she never had told, that story to anyone, not even your grandfather. She tells, her granddaughter that's standing there, and, all of kind of the crew of this, fishing expedition for Titanic relics is there, fighting off tears, Brock Lovett included, as she's going through and telling, kind of the story of this night. And then, we get to kind of the disaster part of this film, which lasts about the last half of it. The film's about 3 hours and 20 minutes, and the Titanic hitting the iceberg happens right about the midway part, because right after, like you said, this little romantic tryst, they leave the picture for Cal to find in the safe, and they make their way off. But bad news, the Titanic has struck an iceberg. Turns out that they made the propellers and the rudders and all this stuff too small for a boat this size. They didn't see the iceberg in time, and it ends up hitting it. And then, like I said, the second half of this film basically is Jack and Rose navigating this disaster of this ship going down. Right. And we can talk a little bit about, kind of some of the specifics, but the Titanic sinking in this version of the Titanic, it has to be one of the cinematic marvels ever captured on film. It's unbelievable how it looks.
It is absolutely epic. horribly so, because you're watching something that was real. It's not it's interesting because we talk about war movies and how realistic it was and how awful it was, but so important. I kind of feel the same way about this, because I think that it really did a great job of paying homage to how awful this situation was. And again, this film had to take a long time to explain certain things. I absolutely love that you see how, from the beginning, you see how the pistons were working, and you see how they used coal to like maintain the fires, how they communicated. Because this was before, telephones. I mean, it was, really, they didn't have helicopters to like save people. Because they were so arrogant and thinking that this would never happen. They didn't have enough life jackets. They didn't have enough lifeboats. They didn't have a plan. The reason why we talk about the band played while the Titanic sank is because it was true. Like 1,500 people out of 2,200 died. A terrible, horrible death. And it sounds really morbid, but we get to watch it and have some reverence for the things that this whole disaster affected and changed for the entire world, and maybe implement that and imprint that on yourself. Because if you were in third class, you basically were dead before you even stepped on that boat. And it was really because you didn't make enough money to purchase your life, which is a horrible reality of what ended up happening. I love that James Cameron didn't just tell this love story, but the way in which, like you said earlier, he interwove real people. When you had his name, and I don't, the man from Ireland, when the designer
Thomas Andrews.
Yes, when Thomas Andrews brings out this giant blueprint of the ship, and he's like, all right, here's what we know, and it's maybe been 10 minutes, and he's like, the bulkheads are going to fill, and we can do 4, we could have withstood 4 but not 5. And one of the guys like, no, she can't sink. It's unsinkable. And he says my favorite line. He says, this Titanic's made of iron. I guarantee you she will sink. She in 2 hours, she will founder. It's a mathematical certainty. He's like, and that's why he's like, we got to get as many people off the boat as possible. We've got to figure this out while still keeping people calm. And just the way in which James Cameron shows that on a human level, as well as this really sweeping epic, like with CGI and with models and with like giant formations, and just the way in which they show all of the things that you've just described, these propellers and all of that, it's absolutely breathtaking to watch. And it's definitely withstood the test of time. Some films you can see, oh, they totally made that work or cheated that angle or whatever. This is still perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you have kind of this the sweeping scope of something like Jack and Rose standing at the bow of the ship, saying I'm the king of the world, or I'm flying, and having kind of that intimate moment on this big expanse of the Titanic, to then all these little intimate moments as Jack and Rose are trying to navigate this ship sinking, and it goes through and it tells kind of all of these personal stories. You see Thomas Andrews standing there kind of in the dining room, just looking at this clock and adjusting the time, and you don't know if he's just doing it just because to take his mind off of it, or if he's doing it for posterity's sake because he wants that clock to be right in 100 years when they find this clock to see what time it was that the dining room flooded. And you see couples just laying in bed, giving their lives up to be together. You have the kind of the treatment of the third class passengers, and the way that they're trying to handle this event, this terrible event that's going on, and kind of weaving its way through it is this last throes of this love story between Jack and Rose, and if they're going to be able to survive to get off. And they think that there might be a lifeline for Rose. They run into Cal, and Cal has kind of negotiated a ticket off of the ship onto one of the lifeboats for himself. So he tells Rose, you get on this lifeboat, they're getting the women and children on there, you take this one, Jack and I will go get the other one. Because like I'd said at the top, Cal's really interesting character to me, because he is awful by all accounts, but even even here at the very end, he has the chance to get on a lifeboat a time or two, but ends up not doing that to make sure that Rose gets on one first, kind of until
Right.
all chances are spent. So
Yeah. No, I love that because and of course he thinks his money can get him a spot, right? Cal is gives one of the guys like a handful of cash, and the guy looks at him a few minutes later like, are you going to get on this boat? And he's like, oh man, I got to go find her. And so you don't know, like he's probably one of the best villains in this sort of genre, as far as like jilted lovers,
mhm.
because he has to win, and he does not care about Jack at all, but he will absolutely make sure, he really wants to make sure that Rose is okay. And even at the end, spoiler alert, when she lives, because she lives to be 101 to tell the story, he still looks for her and tries to find her, on hopes that maybe she made it off the ship. And I find that part really special, because we could have just made Cal like just a horrible person through and through, without any of these
Mhm.
kind of glimmers of goodness. And I really like that, because I think it's much more realistic to have someone that is evil and yet not evil, maybe not equal parts, but I really
Right.
did like that part.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we've got the ship going down. We've mentioned kind of the horrificness of it, but also the breathtakingness of it. The kind of the visual imagery that always stands out to me is just as the ship is slowly sinking, and you're seeing kind of that diagonal lines of the portholes lit up, just slowly, starting to submerge over the course of this, and then ultimately, yeah, the Titanic goes down. One of the crew members of the voyage that we meet at the front is explaining to old Rose how the ship went down, and then we're going to see it play out pretty much exactly beat for beat how he's imagined it to be on his little computer
Yeah.
image there, and it's really atrocious and really kind of hard to watch at times. But boat goes into the water, everyone else goes into the water, and it is pure pandemonium. But luckily, I guess Rose and Jack are able to find each other in all of this chaos, and find a door for Rose to get up on. Now, a lot of people will say that there was room for Jack up on that door. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I will say that they even kind of try to address this, because when they find it, they both try to get up onto it, and it tips over. So when they're both trying to get up onto it, so
Right.
was there room for Jack to be on there? Probably. But that's not the point. That's not the point of Jack putting Rose up on that door, because he was going to stay in that water and make sure that she stayed safe and warm, and gave her every last second of possibility. Because whatever whatever you think about the door, that this is a story of their love in the middle of this catastrophe.
Yeah, and he is routinely putting her needs above whatever he ultimately wants, um, which is what they all say is true love, right? Is loving something truly more than yourself, and doing that in action. So, I have a theory about the whole door thing, that I'd like to just address here. So yeah, they both could have fit, but it would have pushed, and they would have fit, but it would have pushed the wood
Mm-hmm.
down a few inches, and they would have not drowned, which is great. But they still would have both probably died of hypothermia, because you were exposed to the water. And the reason why, I believe the reason why he did all these things and made sure that she stayed on it, was because he knew that he was as good as dead. Anyway, I think that he was just, he could see, in these scenes with Cal, Cal was very clear, I'm going to win. So even if they got off, they would probably, he would have probably had to deal with this court martialing, because that would have never stopped Cal. He would have had to, aside from all of that, if he'd managed to get off the boat and not be crushed to death like Fabrizio, or shot like some of the other third class passengers, he probably wasn't getting out of there alive, for a
Mm-hmm.
multitude of reasons. So that's what I was thinking, is that, as they're trying to get on the boat, he's just trying to keep her as safe as possible. And of course, you have the kind of the final scene where he's telling her she's getting very cold, and they're waiting for some boats to come back. And he's telling her all the things she's actually going to do. And it's he knows that he's going to die because he's keeps saying, you're going to do these things, you're going to do these things, and you're not ever going to give up. And it's really beautiful, and it's horribly, I mean, they look awful. They've got, you know, ice in their hair because it's so
Yeah,
cold.
right.
And but it's definitely one of the most inspiring stories, that to watch unfold, because even at that, he's not scared. He's like, you're going to do all of these really cool things, and I'm so glad. And even though he's like, freezing to death literally in front of her, he's like, this is the best thing that could have possibly happened, and he doesn't regret any of it. it's
Mm-hmm.
it's great.
Yeah, it is. And then it's especially heartbreaking then because we've just watched this tragedy unfold for the last 90 minutes or so, and then old Rose there is narrating, back that only one boat came back and only saved. I don't know, it's like six people or something out of all the people that went into the water, which is just absolutely a gut punch of a thing. But we have gotten to learn the love story of Rose and Jack by this telling, and she's going to finally take that prize that Brock Lovett had been searching for the entire time, that diamond necklace, which had made its way into a coat pocket that Cal had given her there. Maybe that coat was what kept her alive. I don't know for sure, but she's going to sacrifice that diamond to the depths of the sea as a gift to her late Jack, who got lost to the ocean there. And then, yeah, when they get to into New York there as the survivors and they're giving their names, she gives the name of Rose Dawson, which is why she wasn't listed on any of the dockets there that Brock Lovett was looking up.
And she gives the ocean, and then there's this really sweeping scene where it shows all of her pictures.
Mm,
That's like the
mm, mm,
best. Oh, it's my favorite part. It shows all the pictures of her as a young actress, and it shows her on a horse. I'm gonna get emotional just talking about it. It shows her learning to fly a plane. It shows her doing all of these things that Jack told her she could do. And that's why I think that's one of the reasons why she kept the heart, because it was symbolism that he was right with her all the time, and she knew that she was at the end of her life, and so she wanted to give that back to him. And then I feel that she actually ends up passing at the end because of the way the sweeping motion of going from the pictures to her face and then going kind of out to the window. And then, I love this montage where you're going down underneath the water again, and you're going to the old Titanic that's this, vessel at the bottom of the ship. And then
mm,
it becomes brand new again. And all of the people who died,
mm. Yep.
all of the first class folks or the third class folks are there greeting her, and all of the people from below at that party, and the little girl is there who like dances with them. It's so great. And then Jack is at the
The
clock,
top
which
of the
is such
stairs.
a
Yeah.
it's such a great scene, and she's wearing like a white wedding dress. It's the most amazing thing, and that's how it ends. That's the best part. It's so
That's
good.
That's right. Yeah, as everyone is there watching on to see them all the passengers of the ship, and they all kind of applaud as they embrace their one final time. Kind of yeah, as you mentioned in the memory of old Rose, as a beautiful send off to this lifelong love that she'd only been able to recount there at the end. And then, of course, you have that sweeping score from James Horner, that sort of love
So good.
theme from Titanic, which, of course, turns into the Celine Dion song, which won all the awards, the Grammy Awards and the Oscars and the won all the things for that. So Michaela, that is Titanic. In a nutshell, it is it is a most beautiful of love stories that is well deserving of all of the awards that it made. And you alluded to it at the top. It's very famous, Titanic, for being nominated for 14 Academy Awards, for winning 11 Academy Awards, but it's almost as famous for the award nomination it didn't get for Leonardo DiCaprio. Totally spurned right there. That was the shock. It wasn't a shock that it got nominated for 14. It was the shock that it didn't get nominated for Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's right. I'm a huge Leo fan. I've been a Leo fan for since right before this film. But I think that is was such a tragedy. I mean, he's so great, and they're all, I mean, all of them are great. I thought Bill Paxton did a really amazing job because he's probably the character that changed the most, because he and you want to believe that like James Cameron had this moment with him that was like, look, this is really not about the heart, like it's, and he figures it out like within himself, though. Yeah, it's almost like a self-affirming paradigm shift that we got to film. It's really cool because this Brock Lovett guy was all about the diamond. He never really let it in, and he never realized that there were people that this thing happened to, and it shaped hundreds of thousands of lives over the course of the next century. I mean, in
Mhm.
ways that we don't even think about now. This event affected us. There's a reason why now they have certain things on boats. I mean, and that's maybe a trivial way to think about it, but this, I feel like, was just a masterpiece. And to a lot of that was due to the fact that every single person, I think, develops a little or big crush on Leonardo DiCaprio, because his Jack Dawson is just perfect.
Mhm. Yeah, and Kate Winslet nominated for Best Actress, but really it's her interactions with Leonardo DiCaprio really that sells the story. So yeah, so like I said, that might have been one of the bigger snubs in Oscars, and like I said, it was certainly a surprise when he wasn't even nominated, whether to win or not. So that is the Titanic. It's a really terrific tale. 25 years on, it's back in the theaters now. You can go watch it. I think it might be in like 3D IMAX, which would probably just be a spectacle to be seen. But Michaela, the year was 1997 or 1998, probably. It was right around Christmas when this came out. Did young Michaela venture out to the movie theater to see this upon first watch? Did you wait and get that VHS set that you had to stop halfway in the middle of and change tapes? Or tell me about your history with the Titanic.
Yeah, so it did come out. I do remember it came out at winter time. I was single. There's a shocker. I was, and so I think it was around Valentine's Day that I would have gone with friends to see this. I think I did see it in the theater the first time. I've only watched it a couple times because my heart can't take it. I mean, I really think I've maybe watched this film 4 times. But I did have this problem where if I saw a movie and I loved it, I had to buy it even though I never watched it again. So I mean, I have the dual VHS tape to this day. That is not what I watched it on this time, but I did have that. It really is a testament to how great it is because it has haunted me. I
Mhm.
mean, I will never look at a fogged up window of a town car the same way again. And if you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's just, yeah, no, but I did see it, and I felt like my heart broke into a million pieces, and it was shattered, and I would never be the same. And I'd never think about love the same way. And I mean, I watched it yesterday. Wow, look at me. Oop, sorry.
See, that's okay. Yeah,
I watched it yesterday, and I was still like, oh, I'm just never going to be the same, and I'm never going to think of love the same way. It's so great.
Yeah, it is very great. Yeah, I remember this came out. I actually did see this at the theater. I do remember way back in high school, Brian went and saw this at the theater, and then a bunch of times on VHS. I've seen this film well more than 4 times. It's one of my I don't know. I really like this film, and it's for all the things that we talked about. It's this beautiful sort of love story. It is this beautiful kind of packaged retelling of someone, basically giving the memoir of this, kind of forgotten moment in their life. Well, not forgotten to them, but a secret moment in their life to everyone else by all accounts. And then it's also just this visual, heart wrenching masterpiece of this disaster that's unfolding before your eyes, that looks as realistic as it had to have looked that day of the voyage. And then this movie went on to do all sorts of things. As I mentioned, it was the most expensive movie ever made. James Cameron actually basically had to give his paycheck back for doing it because they were so far over budget, and he took some responsibility for that and went without pay, but he wanted to get this made, and then ultimately got the accolades for doing that. A lot of people thought that was kind of overdue. We mentioned it for Leo, but people felt kind of the same way for James Cameron, bringing us Terminator 2 and Aliens and things like that, never getting the appropriate credit. So I finally got it there. And then ultimately you spend $200 million to make a movie. Is about $1 million a minute to recreate the ocean and this giant ocean liner. Hopefully make your money back. And it did, because it became the top grossing film of all time. It was the #1 film in the United States, at least, for I don't know, a long time, like 15 straight weeks or something like that. It was the number one film. Like it got it released and did okay, and then it just like the Titanic, it got the engines up and churning, and it just kept going and going and going. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing Celine Dion telling you that her heart was going to go on. It's one of the top grossing film scores albums of all time. I don't know, a lot of people give this movie a lot of slack, and I don't really understand it, other than just trying to find something, because they all seem to land on the same thing, and it's the door at the end. But there's so much to this film that's beautiful, that if you get hung up on that, I don't know, you're grumpy. You need to get the grumpies out of your heart, I think.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, there's so much more to it than that. Another thing I get a lot of people were like, why didn't she give the Heart of the Ocean to Brock Lovett? And my idea behind that is it wasn't his, #1. That's why she didn't give it to him, because it wasn't his. And #2, he probably at this point would have been so changed, he would not have sold it for the millions, because it was meaningless at that point, because what it symbolized to her was so much more significant. So I think you're right. One of the best love stories ever, beautifully told. One of the most epic kind of sweeping films ever, beautifully told. It really, yeah, did all the things. I'm glad you watched. You were one of the few that watched it, that could watch it more than 4 times, Brian.
That's right. I have a lot of room for love in my heart. Yeah. So, definitely watched this a bunch of times, and loved it in 1997. Loved it just this week when I watched it again. So it was quite the treat to go back to, and stands up as good as it did back then. Still looks incredible. So that is our thoughts on Titanic, and a really great cocktail about it. So let us know what you think about Titanic, and let us know if you mix yourself up one of these fancy punch romaines to pair with it. You can do that on our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Hive. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of ours, episode recaps, the Oscar stuff is going to be on the website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want to go a little bit deeper in some Oscar coverage and bonus episodes, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. We've got bonus content going on over there. It's a great way to support the podcast if you feel so inclined. But keep your eyes open for our regular episodes. We got the lobby bars coming, and next week on our regular episode, we're going to be covering an Oscar hopeful for this year, Empire of Light. This was a movie that really had piqued our interest when it was first announced, when we saw the trailer for it. So definitely excited to get a cocktail made and talk about that one next week. But Michaela, if you're out celebrating the Titanic, if you've celebrated Valentine's Day, if your heart was overflowing with love, just like Jack Dawson's was in Titanic, you need somewhere for that love to go. So it might as well go to giving your favorite podcast a 5-star rating. Where can they do that?
Well, you can find us on the open ocean. No, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Stitcher, Good Pods, all the places where Anchor podcasts are distributed. It is the time of loving other people, and we love y'all. There's a lot of love of cocktails. There's a lot of love of films. And so we're really excited about the community that y'all have been building yourselves. We're just here for it. But yeah, you can find us. You can subscribe. We do 2 drops a week. And yeah, that would be really amazing. We're very grateful to be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks so much for joining us here on the Titanic, Michaela. I think to decompress after so much love and tragedy, we're gonna have to mix up another Punch Romaine. So let's go do that, and we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink
Drink the
the
Movies.
movies. Never let go, Jack.
Never let go.